Hi, very good evening. It's Steve from Lifestyle. Don't worry guys, we're going to be getting down to nitty gritty pole shift, reversal, positioning in the next few days. You know, it's due and it's coming, so don't worry about that. We'll also be doing a latest update of the Earth Self at a glance. You know, we look at CO2 levels, oxygen levels in the atmosphere, as well as volcanoes and the latest in the last 24 hours earthquake magnitude and where it is. So we'll get down to all that good stuff. I just wanted to talk freely about a few things that are going through my mind, maybe the same things that go through your mind. Starting with, okay, we're looking at the TR3B, which is supposedly, like a Skunk Works or Lockheed Martin top secret aircraft. And, there is a lot of questions as to whether this really does exist or not. But it supposedly came from back engineering UFO technology. And some people in this world believe that, all this is by mistake and that the Earth is the only place in this universe, which is huge, that contains intelligent life. And therefore, there is no way that the TR3B could have ever been back engineered out of UFO technology. We're talking about alien technology. I've known about TR3B and been watching stories for many, many years. And I'm going to surprise you with what I say a bit later on in this video. But first of all, we've got even people with, endless amounts of money, maybe the richest people in the world, talking about the likes of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and people like that say, things like, let's just quote Elon Musk, there is no UFOs out there or aliens. I've got 6,000 satellites out in space, and I've never had to divert their course around an alien spacecraft so that they can't exist. Oh, dearie me. I was lucky a good few years ago now to be standing in the back garden when me and somebody else, my father, saw what could only be described as a genuine UFO. And like most people have experience with these things, and they talk about them when they choose to do so, because a lot of people think if you talk about this sort of thing, you're a nutter, you're a crazy man. You need to go and speak to someone who knows a lot about psychology of mental illness, things like that. It's not the case. Just because a few people see things that are not ordinarily natural to be seen doesn't mean they're cranky or crazy. Now, me and my father saw what has been commonly reported as an orb. Now we're talking about something in a metre diameter, perfect sphere, and the colour of a pearl that you get out of the ocean, in an oyster. So, and this thing came around the tree. Yeah. So it's been obviously directionally, intelligently moving around obstacles, and then was 15 feet away from us, and then changed its altitude to go over the house, and it went over the house and disappeared. And I immediately turned to my father and I said, "Did you see that?" He said, "Well, it was like a ball, weren't it? A white ball that just flew past us with no sound." Yeah. And to me, that was all I needed to know from that point on, that we are not alone. And I knew at that point that this was not technology that we had created on this planet as human beings. Now, I know in the comments section, I really don't mind. People are going to say, we've already got it. It was probably a spy drone, one of the latest additions to the Navy or, the Air Force. That's their spy drone. And it uses anti-gravitics as its propulsion system. and its ability to maintain altitude. I don't wear that one bit. And you know, I'm going to explain a little dream I had the other day. And you know, I don't get these dreams where you know, because most of us, you know, we wake up after a night's sleep. You couldn't write down anything that you just dreamed about, because you just wouldn't remember. That's a normal dream for most people. And then maybe a couple of days later, you might remember a snippet or a flashback of that dream. But sometimes I have dreams like, you know, that rare occasion. I've mentioned it so many times on this channel, and I've tried to bring to people's attention so many times about that universal equation and demonstrate it. And you know, this has gone to people in NASA that look after the Mars rover, and they've had a look at it and said it's pretty unique. That equation seems to, you know, reduce things down to certain numbers. That came to me in a dream. There is no way I am that intelligent enough to come up with that. How did it start? Pretty much on the thoughts like I've had the last few days, but many years ago. I was thinking, well, what is the point of life? You know, why are we doing this repetitive thing? And it's of really no importance. You know, I'll just give you, for instance, you know, you go to work, you come home. You go to work, you come home. Then you get a weekend. You know, if you live on your own, like I am at the moment, you know, single now for 5 months, but I'm working on trying to do something about that. I don't have to be single. You know, I'm not boasting, but I don't have to be if I don't want to. And it's been like that always for me in life. You know, if I want a girlfriend, I can have one. It doesn't take a lot of effort, you know. But I have these thoughts. What the bloody hell are we doing in life? And what's the meaning of it all? And, you know, it was when I was having those thoughts many years ago, about a decade ago, I had that dream about the universal equation. First thing I done when I woke up is writ it down and then pondered about it. And I just thought, Jesus Christ, you know, this, if nothing else, is a message. You know, here's all I'm going to say to you in a nutshell. I know some people are thinking, oh, you know, I ain't going to listen to this no more because there's nothing to know. There's nothing to learn about this conversation listening to Gene right now, but you're going to be wrong. You know, I would say to you, get out your pen and paper and write down the 9 times table. And here's why I'm going to tell you to do that. Because when you get to 45 and add 9 to that, you're going to see something in reverse. And then from on that point on, every time you add 9 to that figure, you're going to look back over the whole of the 9 times table and realise something's happening. Why is that important? Because that is a universal standard. It doesn't matter whatever language. If we, forget the universe at the moment, let's concentrate on Earth. If we look at the 9 times table, it doesn't matter whether someone in China has figures that represent the same numbers as what we do here in the West, or Germany, or, you know, Thailand. You know, they might have different symbols that recognise numbers, but they will have the same thing happening. Yeah? If you've got 5 fingers on your hands and someone from a different part of this universe has 5 fingers on their hands, then the mathematics of just understanding the 5 fingers is going to be the same in their language. And what this means is that the universal language really is in mathematics. That is something we can all agree on. We'll have different symbols for it, but it'll be the same. Now, getting back to Earth. Okay, let's get grounded. And how does, you know, someone, you know, who thinks out the box like me come up with these things? And, you know, I'm willing to share some of them with you. And this might sound a little bit crazy, but getting back to Elon Musk, that believes aliens are not real simply because he's never had to divert one of his satellites around a foreign object out in space that has suddenly parked its way in the, you know, the direct velocity of one of his satellites, so that he's had to change its orbit, or he's had to navigate around this object that is foreign. It doesn't mean nothing. And I'll tell you why. Because you know what, we are really naive human beings, and we think that we've come so far in the last 100 years. We go back 100 years, no one had a TV, no one had a mobile phone. People were using perhaps telegraphs, you know, you know, Morse code, that sort of thing. That's what we had. And now we've got all this in just a short period of time. Can you imagine a civilization that is 6,000 years ahead of us right now, and the level of technology that they would have gained over that period of time? If we've managed, and we class ourselves as intelligent, to, you know, have now mobile phones on our wrist, you know, the smartwatch is a mobile phone, and all the other technology we've got, flat screen TVs. Do you remember the old days? I do. You know, when TVs first come out, they were black and white, and you used to have this control knob. It weren't even buttons at that point, where you could put BBC, ITV1, and I'm just talking about the UK channels. That was all we had. We had 3 to start with, and then there was Channel 4, which was a new thing, and now we've got things like Netflix. But do you remember them TVs where you was like, and then you'd tune it into the next station, then you'd turn the dial back and it'd go back into the next one? That's the level of technology in just my life period. That's how far we've come. You know, TVs used to take up almost the same space as what your car does in the garage now, because the back of them was that big. But kids of this generation don't know nothing about that. They only know flat screen TVs, and, you know, so long as the TV is the same size as the living room wall, they're happy. You know, we never grew up with that when we was younger. But what is it that is taking place in our lives? What is it with the world that we live in? Is it like scientists are saying right now? Is it, you know, a quantum mystery? Is it, you know, an experiment? Is it an illusion? Is it like the Matrix film? We don't know what it really is. And here's my thing. You know, first of all, as a scientist, I don't find it a coincidence that this Earth is where it is right now, and that it has life on it. Because for things to fall into place, so lucky for us to have an Earth that has an abundance of water, which really is the source of life on our planet, and then have, you know, all the diversity of life on it, is by no coincidence. Because if we'd have been much closer to the sun, we'd have had an atmosphere like Mercury. And if we'd have been further away from the sun, you know, most of the water on our planet would have been in frozen form and maybe never got to kickstart life off. So, you know, the perfect place is where we are situated, and some call it the Goldilocks zone because it's perfectly situated where it is. And, you know, we have weather systems, and we have seasons. And, you know, here's the thing as well. If we didn't have the moon, then all the water on our planet would be stagnant. Just like a still pond that you see sometimes on farms. You know, they get that small pond, but it's full of algae, you know, and it's stagnant, and it's not good. You know, okay, for the algae that have learned over the millions of years to thrive in that sort of situation, it's good for them, but certainly it's not good for us to just, you know, dip our tongues in there, start drinking that water out of it, because, you know, we're going to be ill within hours, if not days. My point is this, is that you can't deny this Earth. And there is, I believe, a mystery behind that. Now, here's the idea I had the other day. You know, in my dream, apart from dreaming, it was a weird dream of a camper van, which was a right wreck of a camper van, but inside just had more rooms that could possibly exist in that camper van, because outside it looked small. This is like Doctor Who's TARDIS, massive on the inside but very small on the outside. But the dream got even weirder, because it was like a shop aisle, because the food that was in there was just endless in there. And the potential for this camper van to become something that in my dream I was thinking, this would be a great place to live and survive, and you could go anywhere in this and look at all the food and look at all the all the things in there. That was just one part of my dream. And then it went on to the image of those Russian dolls, and when you open them there's another Russian doll in there, and then when you open that there's another Russian doll in there, and this goes on probably 10 times till you get to a tiny little Russian doll. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And the point is this, is that our Earth really has trapped everyone on it, and it's like a prison. And you know what we've done? We've created prisons even inside this prison, because we can't, for the majority of us, we can't get out, and most of us have never experienced life beyond our moon, so we're trapped on this Earth. It is a prison by all means and circumstances. And there isn't even a planet at this moment that we have discovered, even in our solar system, or within a near enough travelling distance to it, that we can get to where there is more people like us, or intelligent life forms, even though they may look different. But we can't. So it's like a prison. And we know that there are intelligent life forms visiting us, but they don't want to involve themselves with us. It's like it's an experiment, and human beings have been put on here. And it's the weird thing, there was some interesting artifacts that was recovered, and it dated back to the Sumerians, and the Sumerians said that according to their tablets, that we were created using some of the Anunnaki, which were people that descended from the heavens, and that tells you something. But they use some of their DNA and something else on this Earth, and they show you these vessels in these clay tablets of what looks like, can only be described as DNA being created, and it backs up the story of these tablets. So they created us according to their story of Anunnakis. We were created to mine gold for them. Isn't that another coincidence? It wasn't copper, and it certainly weren't lead, and it certainly weren't they were after mahogany wood or anything like that. No, they wanted gold, which was the most precious asset on our planet back then, and probably still is today. If you look at the price of gold per ounce, it's over £2,800 an ounce. So that's what they was after. Why? According to the tablets, they said it was because their atmosphere was depleting. They were spraying it in dust formation into their atmosphere, because they lived by a dwarf star, which apparently made their atmosphere deteriorate, or made it not livable unless they sprayed into the atmosphere this gold, which would have been the most reflective material to them, as it is to us today. If you want to reflect heat, and you're going to find it only on very exotic sports cars like McLarens, they actually put a very, very thin layer of gold actually around the engine compartment to keep it, diverting that heat away from the actual carbon fibre body. Again, it seems to fit these stories. And if you're like me and you've actually had, the privilege of witnessing things in between, right in front of your eyes, and I'm not talking at a distance where you can't make it out. I'm talking 15 feet away, probably the distance between your window from one end of your living room to the window in the back end of your living room. I saw what I saw, and you know what? Couldn't have been with any other better person. It was with my father, and we both confirmed as soon as we saw it what we both witnessed. So these things exist, and I've seen videos online of these things being recorded flying by aircraft. So, and you know what? Here's the thing, you know, the door on an aircraft is probably around about 1 meter in width, and you know what? This ball that, or this orb that is flying around the aircraft at the time, that is being videoed from another aircraft in the sky, shows you this ball actually float past by the door and fits exactly what me and my dad saw in size and colour and movability. But they have the ability to do, you know, things that conventional aircraft are just simply not capable of doing. I'm talking about, I don't think a pilot could withstand the acceleration that these things do, and then it almost like at a 45 degrees changes direction. I don't think a pilot could withstand those G-forces. So whether these things are actually real, they are like a living entity, or like, you know, some would say a drone, I don't know. I just know that what me and my father saw was completely unavailable according to the technology that I've got a good grasp on. I've got a good grasp on a lot of different things, trust me on that. You know, the manoeuvrability, the aerodynamics was just completely wrong, because balls are not aerodynamic. They are very strong in structure. You know, spherical structure can withstand, you know, an immense amount of force being pressed on it, because I think every surface point on a sphere is equal. So, you know, you apply a little bit of pressure on one part of that sphere, it transfers it remarkably, unlike any other shape. So again, you know, why you would probably choose such a shape for, you know, such a object, if you was massively intelligent than what we are at this moment. I'll just say, you know what, if we do not kill ourselves, you know, we will get to a greater extent of technology. I'll also say this, is that, you know, you might be at this point in the video thinking, well, you know, there is actually no proof for me to you know, to agree with you, Gene, on what you're talking about. But I will say this, yeah. In terms of technology, look at the quantum physics experiment with the double slit. That's one. And then, if that's not enough to sober you up to other things, you know, expanding your horizon on these subjects, then look at the experiments conducted in, I think, the 1960s with regards to those two atomic clocks. One was put on an aircraft reading the exact atomic time as the other clock. That was left on the runway, and that aircraft travelled for about 5 or 6 hours at its maximum speed it was able to do at that point in time. I'll just say, for argument's sake, 500 miles an hour. When they were returned, put back on the tarmac, one of the atomic clocks showed a different time to the other, which means that as you go faster, you know, time slows down. So proving time travel. And that was the 1960s. Do you think that when scientists discovered that and made it aware to their governments that they were not going to take this any further, knowing that time travel was absolutely possible, do you think they would have just left it there after that? Well, I'll leave you to ponder that. But I'll just say, you know what, when we discovered, you know, the actual atoms, and that we could break them into the fundamental particles of neutrons and protons and leptons and quarks and flavours of quarks and aunts and uncles and you know, smaller elementary particles that make up just a simple atom, do you think, you know, that we would have stopped at just saying, okay, this is an atom? No, we went further, didn't we? And that is why you should know that our governments do know a lot more than what they're telling us. And that maybe the TR3B that we're looking at here in this video at this point in time is actually present. You know, maybe it was back engineered from alien technology. But, you know, answering, you know, the question that Elon Musk posed, why are they not here showing us, you know, that they are here and that we're not alone in this universe? Well, maybe there's a good reason for that. Maybe we're just not evolved enough to become part of the universal community at this point in time, and that we've got a lot of things to prove. And you know, I think you would agree with me that, you know, with what the news that we watched today on, you know, what is the biggest con in human history, CO2 causing climate change, you know, is obviously just a reason to create artificial jobs, create artificial industries. And yes, it is very profitable for organisations like the United Nations that want to raise $1 trillion a year to combat, you know, CO2 in the atmosphere. But at the same cost, you know, the dignity and the respect we will have lost in this generation to our future generations when they look back and say, how were they stupid enough to believe that that was actually changing the climate? You know, we've got to deal with that. That is our legacy at this moment, because, you know, even though you are hearing the little tweets in the background of government saying, oh, how far can we fucking push this? You know, how far can we pacify the general public that this is real? You know, maybe we should be looking at alternatives now. You know, why not? Why not use pole shift? You know, the magnetic pole reversal, because it's actually happening, and there is risks involved in that could be catastrophic. You know, there isn't a person on this planet that could deny that is the case. And there's your reason to raise all the money in the world you want to, but do it for the right reasons, not for the wrong. CO2 is not a problem for our atmosphere. It certainly isn't a problem for all the vegetation that thrives on CO2. And proof of that is, you know, just look at these industrial greenhouses that produce salad packs, lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes. They actually inject CO2 into the greenhouse so that it produces more food for the plants for it to thrive. But at the moment, you know, they think that we're pacified enough to not understand the truth of the reality, and, you know, nothing's changing. Crazy world we live in. And, you know, I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you guys. You know, I don't mind if you've not made it through to this point in time, but, you know, if you did, then, you know, I respect that, because, you know, you have to keep an open mind in this world. Because if you just accept everything at face value, then what is the point to start with? Like I said, you know, we'll be coming back in the next few days with the latest position of the magnetic North Pole, and then we've got the Earth alpha glance. You know, I really would welcome you to come back then. And, you know, if I could just take a second to mention the link down there where you can help support our observatory that keeps you informed of these things that ordinarily you wouldn't hear about. And certainly with regards to the pole shift position, then, you know, can I encourage you to use the link. Say what I always do, guys, you know, you take care of your loved ones. You know, we live and are living in very scary times, to say the least. As always, bye for now.